Hello and welcome to the North Suns Entertainment ACMG competition. Here today we are going to be talking about how to create sprites and import sprites that we've created an external image program. So we're going to go ahead and get started here, and as you can see we got the GameMaker Studio already open. So if you want to follow along, go ahead and open up GameMaker Studio and let's go ahead and start. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start out by creating our sprite. We're going to create a custom sprite inside of GameMaker's image creation program, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it the image editor for now. So a few ways we can go about this is we can either click up on the little Pac-Man looking red thing and just hit that and create a sprite from there. Or we can right click the folder and hit create sprite that way. Or, the old-fashioned way, click on resources, create sprite. Either way works. I personally just prefer right-clicking and hit Create Sprite. Obviously, it's easier to click the Pac-Man. So let's go ahead and click the Pac-Man. Alright, so let's start off. First things first, we got to name our sprite. Most of the time we know what we're going to create, and we can name it accordingly. One of the best ways to start naming your sprites is by including what kind of a file this is. So by default, it says sprite and then a number. Let's go ahead and get rid of that, and let's name it accordingly to what we want it to be. We are going to create a circle character that displays our player. So in order to do this, we're going to use the keyword SPR for sprite, all lowercase, and then we are going to do uppercase for the name, and I'm just going to name him player, starting with a capital. And that's actually all we have to do. But it's always good to have SPR in it so that you don't accidentally name it the same thing as one of your objects. So if you just did player and then you went and named one of your objects player, it would cause a conflict. So the best way to do this is just add SPR in front of it. You can add an underscore if you'd like, or you can just do the capital, which is what I prefer. So that's up to you. The next thing we're going to do is, before we can actually do origin settings or collision and all that stuff, we actually have to create our sprite. I'll show you how to load up a sprite after we are done creating, because the load sprite's just simple. So let's go ahead and click on Edit Sprite, and you are going to be given a Sprite Editing window. From here, we have a pretty simple interface: File, Edit, Transform, Images, and Animation. All of these help you create your sprite and further animate your sprite. But we're just going to create a new sprite. So we can click on this little file with a plus symbol, or we can do File, New. I'm going to click on the file because it's right there on the toolbar. And it's going to give us the default 32 by 32 image 0 frame. Now we can click on the left-hand side to show the preview of what our sprite will look like, and then further down it says speed. And this is going to be our room speed for when we check out the, in-game. Normally I keep this at default. I haven't found a reason to actually change it yet. I haven't made a game that goes against the room's default, so 30 is okay. Background color. We have talked about this before, and the background color can be any color you want. If you want to see your image stand out from the background, you can choose a green. But normally this is transparent, so anything we create will be transparent on this green background. I'm going to go ahead and just stick with a default gray. Or you can choose a background image that's imported via the program, which we do not have, so there is nothing there. And then you can choose to stretch that background. Alright, moving on. Let's go ahead and double click our image 0. And it brings up the image editing software that's part of GameMaker Studio. From here, we're going to edit and create our sprite. Let me just give you a quick rundown of the interface, which is really simple, actually a little bit simpler than Paint program. But first, I'm going to scroll in using the mouse scroll button to make my image bigger. It's not actually making the sprite bigger, this is just the canvas that we can draw on, as you can see. But over here on the left-hand side, we have all of our tools that we can use to create our sprite. We have our pencils, our pens, our eraser, eyedropper, shape tools, selection tools, magic wand, all the way to text, fill, and then the different sizes for the selected items. On the right hand side we have our colors. We have the color using the left mouse button and the color using the right mouse button. And in order to change these two colors, all you do is left click on a color or right click on a color. So simple enough. And these also correspond with a fill and stroke color. Or you can choose from this little color rainbow here down here. And further down is opacity, so you can change how light this color is being displayed. So the default is 255, and you can change it to whatever you want. Heck, let's do a really low number to show you what it's talking about. And as you can see, this green color, let me go ahead and fill up a little bit here. Okay, and then a red color over it. Now you see how it's like semi-transparent. Now if we take it and go to 255, now it's a solid color, but I didn't change what this was, so it has semi-transparency. Okay. And then we have the color mode, which is blend and replace, and this is when you're overlapping colors, how it affects them. So simple enough, easier than Microsoft Paint, and it's good enough to create, whatever you need it to. And I was actually going to show you the stroke and the outline. Okay. So any color you do with the right, when you right click, is going to be the outline of the shape or object you create. Or if you're drawing with it, this is right click, this is left click. But when you fill in a shape, it's going to be right is the outline, left is the outline, right is inside. And so that's pretty simple. You can test with different colors that you want to make. And I'm going to go ahead and just clear this out so we can create our first sprite. All I'm going to do is start with the circle tool. I'm going to keep all the default settings here because I'm not really looking to modify it or just do a stroke or a fill. I want my awesome looking ball. And we're going to do the fill color, and no, not that way, this way. Okay, so I did want the ball, but I want it in the center. Alright, so we have our character, and then I'm going to go ahead and make eyeballs for him. Let's go ahead and just do white. And I'm going to create them over on the side so that I can move it to where I want it to go. So one there. Okay. And all I did there was I copy and paste. So when you select something with your selection tool by hitting S on the keyboard, you can do Control-C and then Control-V, and you get a copy of that image that you have selected. And it can be any part of it that you want. Now that I have my character, he is done and ready to go. And I mean, you can make something intricate. You can create whatever you want using this. This is all pixel art. So if you are a pixel artist, gosh, this is all you need. This is perfect. You don't need to go use Photoshop or whatever like I do. You don't need the advanced tools. This is just straight up pixel art. You can make some of the most amazing things. And as you can see, it created our sprite. Now, you may be wondering how we can actually animate this sprite, and it's not that difficult. So all we're going to do is you can make a copy of this, and you can do that by hitting Control-C and Control-V. And now you have a copy of that frame, is what these are called now, because it animates. And I can show you dramatic animation by moving him down or up a little bit. Let's go ahead and move him down. And it's going to show you here, it looks like he's bouncing, and it looks extremely fast. So I just made a 2-frame animation, and now we have options for the animation. We can set the length of this animation or stretch it out. And so instead of just being 2 frames, let's make it 10 frames long. And now he's bouncing nice and slow. Or we can just do the 1 and make an animation based on a turn. So we can do a 10 frame 360 turn, and he can spin in circles. So I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can do with this. You can, make an animation where they disappear in 10 frames. You can make an animation where he's actually blinking, so you can add a reverse to that. And now this could be like a low health for the player. You can make him grow. Or you can reverse and make him shrink. You can do all sorts of things. You can even morph him into another sprite that you've created. So if you had a sprite that turns into something else, I mean, you can do anything you want. There is no limits to what you can do. Your imagination is pretty much the limit. So outside of the animation, now that we've got that all taken care of, let's go and check out the images and what we can do to them. So once we have our sprite created, let's say we actually made it the wrong color. Well, this colorize option allows you to actually change all the colors in your sprite to a different hue, or you can just shift the hue of the color itself rather than changing, like a white. You can also just do colorize partial. So let's say you wanted to change, one specific color. I have a couple in here. I'm sorry, I don't have more than one color, so it can only change that. But you can see if I change it out of the red, it won't shift it. So again, this is limitless on what you can do. You can change all your color options. You can change how it's being displayed as far as being fully solid, or you can erase background colors. Like I said, if you had that green image in the background when you're creating it, you can go ahead and erase that color. It'll take care of it. You can smooth the edges of your sprite and just make him look a little bit more transparent. It's not the word, but not so sharp. Not so sharp. It smoothens out the edges a little bit. And then you can even go as far as to outlining the character in different colors and have a thickness. You can place it inside of it, remove the image and just have the outline, or you can smooth it out and make it a little bit, feathered. You can make it glow, you can add a drop shadow, you can buttonize if you're making interface elements, and then you can also fill it with a gradient. So I mean, there's so many things you can do when you're creating the sprite. That was just a few things that you can do, and if you're looking to get specific elements in your sprite and you need some help, there is plenty of resources out there that can help you. You can ask me personally and I'll try to get back to you and give you some information. If I need to make a tutorial on doing certain stuff, just feel free to ask, comment on the video. But I have one of the biggest resources available on the website, and you can actually access it under the Generals tab. It's called the Indie Resource Goldmine. This is very helpful, and do not hesitate to use it. It does link to an external website, but it gives you plenty of tutorials and inspiration as far as to creating sprites, so you don't have to be limited to what you know about images right now. As you saw, all I did was put 3 shapes together to make a little character, and I've made games with just that simple of a shape before. So fret not, it's okay. If you aren't that great at art, this is super simple. Just use the basic shapes, make something that looks like what you want it to be, and then make a great game out of it. That's what I do normally. So that is how you create your sprite. Now let's say you actually wanted to change some of the options. So we got the origin. This is where your sprite is located. It doesn't look like the center of this image is the center of my sprite, so if I want to do that, I just move it by clicking a little bit and moving it just to get it in the center of my image. And then we want to go ahead and set the collision. So under collision checking, we hit modify mask, and this gives us another dialog that we can change the type of bounding box for this image. Now, for better collision detection, a lot of things use square boxes. Now that's not precise, but it does free up memory. So you don't need to really change anything. It should automatically have something pretty good unless you have a bunch of opacity issues. Another way you can do it is you can do an ellipse and it'll just capture the whole circle of this. Rarely do you use diamond, but you can. It can add a little bit more effect to it and give it some perspective. A rectangle is normally what goes, or you can do precise, where it captures every little bit of the image. As you can see here, let me zoom in, it actually captured the eyes as well, whereas if I just did an ellipse, there's part of the eyes that do not get caught, it's just the circle here. But precise gets everything, which can cause a lot of memory usage. But rectangle gets everything. Yes, it does leave out a little bit of boxes here, but that is okay, especially if a lot of your stuff's square. And that is how you create the sprite. Now, if you wanted to do loading of your own, you go ahead and create your new sprite. Let's name it. And then all you do is click Load Sprite. Select the image you want to load. Normally PNGs with transparent backgrounds are good, or you can do the image with the super duper lime green color, whatever that is. But after you select your image, you go ahead and hit Open, and then it's already imported. So instead of having to go through here and make your own image, you just load up a sprite that you already have, center it, and boom, it's ready for the game. So if you know how to use external imaging software, you can go ahead and create your own sprites in that, and then upload them here, rather than using the in-game maker software. Well, guys, that is all for creating a sprite. If you have any questions, please comment below, or go ahead to the ACMG forums and ask your questions there. There'll be somebody who can help you, whether it be me or another person participating in the competition. I thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to the next tutorial with you guys.